I told you. I didn't know.
So today's video is all about testing, standardized testing. And the first thing I want to say is that I don't think that everyone should have to test. I don't think everybody needs to test. I don't think everybody should have to send in their results. But there's a couple reasons why I do testing, and that's what I'm going to share. And then I'm going to share what we've used for testing and my reviews on those testing programs. So the very first thing is why I test yearly. The reason I test yearly is two main reasons. The first reason is that I like to see where my kids are at, and it's nice to get an outside perspective from seeing where they started to where they finished, because I also totally think it's great to test at the beginning of the school year too, because you can do like fall norms. So that works too. I just go based on last year's test. I consistently test yearly, let's say that. So I like that because it really just gives me an idea of where the kids are at and the progress they've made. And then the other reason is that it really helps me see what we could do to improve. Well, I remember a few years back, my son was like, specifically spelling was not his strength. And I was like, okay, well, like we saw that, so we could go back and correct that. So that's why I test yearly, and that's what I get from it. I'm not required to send in my results every single year. It depends on what state you live in, and some states don't require any testing whatsoever. So if you don't have to, I mean, that's great, but that's the reason I do it, is because it kind of gives me a really good idea of where my kids are at and then like when we need to pivot. So that's why I do it. I really like testing. I think it's really good for the kids. And also I feel like can help them to not be scared of testing, because as a homeschooler myself, I remember that testing was really big and scary, and I like that my kids are used to it and it's not something big and scary because we do it regularly. They know that it's going to have a yearly test. So those are my reasons for testing, and now I'm going to share with you what we did for testing this year and like the two different programs we used. The very first thing I will mention is the Stanford 10 test. I've been using this with my son since his third grade exams, and I really like it. It is so detailed and extensive. I'm going to read to you some of the things that come in that test and the results we get back. I also wanted to explain a little bit of how the tests work. So with the Brewers Testing with the Stanford 10, it was a little bit of a struggle to first get it started. You have to download their protected browser, because you can't access anything else when you're taking that test. It's only that browser. So I did have a little bit of a struggle, so I recommend doing the practice test, because they do prepare you for it. And I, like a procrastinator, didn't actually try to launch it until like 15 minutes before my son was supposed to be online. And they say if you're not on at the right exact time, like if you're not there, they will, like you're not gonna take the test, right? I think it's like a $10 fee. So I had a little bit of a panic attack near the end when I was trying to get us going, but they do prepare you, and I do recommend signing on beforehand, making sure that your browser works, making sure your computer is updated. I don't even remember exactly what it was. I think it was like Adobe maybe, but something wasn't fully updated. And I do know that I had to like make sure that was good, and then I also had to put that browser in and then do that. So if you're not tech savvy and you're feeling like flustered, I do recommend checking that out and like making sure that you're set maybe the day before when they send you that placement test or that practice test, I mean. So they have clusters and different like groups of specific things that he's learning, right? So mathematics and problem solving, but under that, they specifically say number, sense, and operations, patterns, relationships, algebra, data, statistics, probability. And each of those they're put together so that when you get it back as results, you see it as a whole, but you also see them individually. So this is really helpful because it taught me, at least this year, we've been doing teaching textbooks, and I'm actually going to make a video on why we're no longer doing teaching textbooks, but that really helped determine like what he was learning and what he wasn't, because I saw that his mathematics, specifically like the operations, that was now a struggle, and in previous years it hadn't been. So again, this is why I love the Stanford 10 testing, is because it really helps break it down so I can see exactly where he could use extra support. A little bit more what they have. They've got mathematics and procedures, computation with whole numbers, with decimals, with fractions. These are all separated. So again, I love how detailed they are because I like to see exactly the specifics. Then we've got language mechanics, so capitalization, punctuation, again, as a whole, but also separated so that you can see exactly where they are. And they also have the Stanine, which basically that just means you can see like their grade equivalent, but it also gives you a number, 1 through 9, 9 being like super advanced, 1 being like didn't pass kind of thing, where they are in like as a whole. And I like that too because it just kind of like gives me a number, like a very easy number to remember in my head of like, okay, they got a 4, so they're a little, like, need a little more help. I think 4 means slightly below, 5 is average, 6 is like slightly above. They give you those numbers, then they just break it down for you really, really specifically. They tell you how many questions were asked, how many they got correct, scaled score, the national average, and then the grade equivalent. And again, I like seeing all of these numbers. It really helps me to see where he's at and be able to really work on changing if we need to change and sticking with it if it's working. You know, when it comes to what I see on those test scores, like I said, I continue to use Sunlight. I'm sticking with Sunlight. However, Sunlight has a variety of different options. So for example, they have like 5 different math programs that you can buy through Sunlight. So if I see that one's not working, I can switch. And they don't have multiple language arts programs, but they have things that go with the language arts program. So they have extra vocabulary, they've got Wordly Wise, they've got Grammar Ace. So if I see that they need extra in the grammar or the vocabulary or the spelling, I can do that. I can also switch spelling programs, which I've also done. So that's another reason I say that it helps us to know when's a good time because I can see if something is no longer working. That is the Stanford 10. I'll have links to it below so that you guys can check it out. You can also check out Brewers Testing because Brewers Testing does a really good job. The way that they set up their test is you buy it, you set your time when you're purchasing it, you set the date and time. It's Eastern Standard Time that they're testing on, but you do your standardized testing, you choose the date and the time, and then they send you an email that morning. It is asked that you sit there with your kids. So I do sit there with my son and just to be there in case he needs me or something goes wrong. This last time, my computer died during the test. The battery ran out, and I just called them. They were so helpful. They answered and then got us right back where we left off. But something like that happens, I wanted to be right there for him. But the test is about 6 hours long. Breaks up into 2 days. You do it 2 consecutive days. I think they do testing every day, but you pay more if you want to have it on like the weekend or something. But yeah, I'll also have a link for Brewers Testing because they did a really good job. They're really helpful. They're responsive. If you have questions or concerns, you can call them. And then the results are so convenient. And I also got my results back like later that day or the next morning. It was really fast. So I love the Stanford 10. But the only negative thing about it is they don't start till 3rd grade. So for my daughter who finished 2nd grade this last year, I needed to give her something that was for her grade. And that is where I found the CAT test. The Brewers test, the Stanford 10, at least from the Brewers company, cost $40. The California Achievement test I got from Christian Liberty, and theirs only cost $25. So her test was definitely a little bit less extensive than the Stanford 10. That's totally fine. I'm excited for her to do Stanford 10 next year. But if you've got a younger kid or you like the simpler testing and it's a little cheaper, I did enjoy the California test. And they did a few things differently that I thought were really nice. First of all, it's not proctored in person. So when you buy it, you can do it anytime you want. You can do it the next day, you can do it that day, you can do it right then. You can do every section because they have this different sections for math, spelling, language, etc. I think there was about 8 different sections, and each one you could do whenever you wanted at a separate time. Once you start it, it is timed, but you have no requirement to start it. You have an entire year to do it. So, for us, we buy them to take the test, but theoretically, if you bought it in advance for them to take later, you could totally do that. And then you can just sign on and do it whenever they're ready. which I really liked because I definitely gave my daughter a break between each test. I didn't give her a big break because I think that when you're in test mode, like when you're going, it's best to just keep going. It's kind of like when you're on a roll working, like best to just keep going. But I definitely did separate it into 2 days, and I gave her a little break in between each specific subject so that she could like regroup, jump up and down. So that test was really good, and I did like the way that they did their scoring as well. I'm going to put a picture for you guys up on the screen, but they have the raw score, the grade equivalent, the percentile rank, and again, the stay 9 rank. So you got, the different numbers, 6, 7, whatever. So the subjects that they tested for were reading vocabulary, reading comprehension, mathematics computation, mathematics concepts and problems, language mechanics, language usage and structure, and language spelling. Again, like it was really nice to be able to see where she was at, see what was working. We use Singapore math for the kids. It only goes to 6th grade. And I have to say, I think Singapore math is really amazing. It teaches word problems so clearly, and they continue to teach the word problems. So, but again, like it just helped us to see where she was at with all of the different things, and I think it's really helpful. I definitely recommend the California Achievement Test too. It's very simple. There's no special browser you have to use. You literally just click the link and it opens up into their browser. You could still access the computer if you wanted. I mean, I wasn't, so it didn't matter, but it was a little bit less scary in that way as far as if you're not tech savvy and you just want to be able to click the link and have it open up and work. That was a lot simpler. And then, like I said, you can just go back and check after every single test. There's not somebody right there proctoring it and then having to like score it and then send it to you. It's literally just automatically sends you those, or soon as you finish, you automatically get the results. You just click on, it says results on the screen, and you can click results and see what your child scored. So that's a really nice thing about the CAT. I am super excited. Next week's video is going to be about virtual field trips, because I know a lot of us are dealing with like COVID and is it open, is it not open? I can't really plan all of our field trips this year, which is super unfortunate because I had some really fun ones that I wanted to do with my kids. So I decided to just take it online. And we're going to do some that are in person, but we're going to do a lot that are virtual tours. So yeah, stick around for my next video so you guys can see the virtual tours or virtual field trips that my kids and I are doing this year to make, the maybe less exciting school year still have a lot of interest, and I mean, it's actually pretty affordable too. A lot of the virtual ones are giving discounts or it's free. So if you can't do stuff in person, definitely try to do some virtual field trips for your kids this year.